All right, now this is something that I've been wanting to do for a while now. I don't really know why. Now I've got a lot of woodworkers that are subscribed to my channel, and I might offend them with this video, but this one's for the crafters out there, and who knows, maybe I can convince a couple woodworkers to give this a try. Either way, you do end up with a really nice looking star. If you do want to make this out of wood, go check out my channel. I've got a whole bunch of videos on that actually. Anyhow, basically all you're going to need for this project is a glue gun, some awesome looking scissors, a knife, a glue stick, some glue, Mod Podge, I think. We might use that. Some colored tissue paper, some toilet paper. I know, a little weird. Going from working with wood to toilet paper. Anyways, and cardboard. Preferably a ridiculously large box for a ridiculously small parcel. We all know who's responsible for that. Okay. And the most important thing that you're going to need is one of my templates. I created this template on my own. It took me a long time with a lot of trial and error trying to get all the angles just right so the star would fit together perfectly. And it's available on Patreon for only $2. Now, $2 is the membership price, so you do become a member, and you actually have access to a whole bunch of different things for $2. The reason I set it up that way is because I actually wanted to sell these for only $1, but Patreon has a minimum price of $3 if I want to sell individual plans or templates. So I went with the membership route because $2 is cheaper than $3. But yeah, it's more than $1, but you know, please support me. Go to Patreon, hook me up. So once you get your template, this is where the fun begins. Just start by cutting this bad boy out with your awesome scissors, of course. Pretty self-explanatory. Cut these little triangles out too. And I went ahead and cut these little cardboard pieces off camera because I didn't want to bore you guys to death here. But the goal here is to glue this template onto the cardboard, but you kind of have to glue it on the right way. So you'll notice if you flip this cardboard over, you can see all these lines going in one direction. We're going to try to line up this template parallel to those lines. And you want the points to line up right in between two of the lines. I tried to give you an example here so you can see what I'm talking about. So I put some pen lines where those lines are. You want the point to be in between those, because at some point we're going to come along with a little pen here. We're going to put an indentation there, right between those lines, and it makes it super easy to fold the cardboard. And that's how we're going to get our bevel in the star. All right, moving on. So as you can see, I'm using a scrap piece of metal here as my ruler. I'm actually going to be using that as a guide to cut this out as well. So if you do have some sort of straight edge that you can use, it'll make it a lot easier to cut these out. So now you're just going to glue this into position. Make sure those points are in the right spot there. And one thing to note, if you don't use too much glue, you can actually peel this template off after you're done cutting it, and you can reuse it. So I'm actually going to try to reuse this for all 5 pieces, because I'm curious to see if it is possible. That way we can save a little paper so we don't have to print out 5 of them just for one project. All right, so this part was actually pretty easy. I did have a nice sharp knife, obviously. I tried with scissors on a practice piece, and scissors don't work. They just don't work. So definitely get a knife for this. I had an X-Acto knife that worked, so if you got one of those, that works too. But these utility knives are pretty easy to find at a dollar store or something for pretty cheap. And yeah, this took me about, on average, about 2 minutes and 15 seconds to cut one of these star points out. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and peel this off now. You can see it comes right off, but if you let the glue dry for too long, it won't come off that easily. And now, since I'm trying to reuse that template, I decided to make another sheet full of these little triangle pieces, and we're going to cut a bunch of these out. Oh, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but with this template that I've got for you guys, you can actually make different sized stars. So if you have a piece of cardboard that's not quite big enough for the biggest size here, just cut these templates down on the dotted lines, and it should work out just fine. All right, so I got my 5 pieces cut, and as you can see here, I did reuse that template for all 5 pieces. It was looking a little messed up by the end, but it worked. There we go. So now we're getting to some fun stuff here. I'm just drawing a line across here from corner to corner. And this is to help me line up those triangular pieces in a few minutes here. We'll get to that. So now we're going to take a pen and we're just going to leave a little indentation along the middle of this piece here. And that'll help us fold this really nicely without damaging anything. So you're going to get a really nice crisp fold right down the center there. And this actually works really, really well. And you can see that this triangle will fit right in there. Of course, if you are making a smaller size star, you will have to cut those triangles down. But I did leave some dotted lines on there for you, so it should be pretty easy for you guys. And we're on to the gluing. Just put a whole bunch of hot glue in there, line things up, and all the angles should just naturally fit together by the end. And now this piece here, the second piece, this second triangular piece, I'm marking this about 3 inches over from the first one. And honestly, there's no set rules on this. Just kind of put it wherever you think would make the star the strongest. And obviously you can see me cutting this down here. So depending on where you're going to put that, you're going to end up with a different sized triangle. But hey, they are easy to cut down and put them in there. Voila. Glue that bad boy in there. And we are looking good. Very cool. Very cool. And you can tell right away it's quite a bit stronger now with those triangles in there. And I wanted to reinforce the tips so that they were nice and strong. So I basically just filled the corrugated holes there with some hot glue. And that actually worked really well. Once the glue dried, I don't know if you can tell by me tapping on here, but the tip is nice and solid. And there we go. We got 1 piece done. Now we just got to make 4 more exactly the same way, and we will have all the pieces for our 5-point star. And there we go. 5 pieces done, and we have ourselves a star. But don't go anywhere yet. The video's not over. We still got to glue this thing together and try a new finishing technique that I've never tried before. So you can see everything lines up really well. Like I said earlier, I spent a lot of time trying to sort this out, so I would really appreciate a little support from my fans there. I do want to keep making projects like this for YouTube and Patreon, and yeah, I have a lot of fun doing this stuff. Anyways, so more hot glue, gonna glue this thing together. This is pretty self-explanatory. I did kind of work my way around slowly, and I made sure to let it dry on the table flat fully for a few minutes. Then I would flip it over, add a few more dabs, then flip it back over to lay it flat so that those blobs of glue would dry while the star was flat, because I really didn't want this thing warping out of position while the glue was drying. And there we go. Got all the seams sealed up there, and it's looking good and strong. I was actually surprised how stiff and solid this thing was. Actually, another thing I ended up doing was putting glue along the edges of the entire star, because I felt like we should seal this up for the next step that we're going to get into here. And that is where the crafting glue and toilet paper come in. I know, I never thought I'd use toilet paper for a project, but here I am. So basically we're going to do some decoupage, and I am mixing up the glue here. I'm doing a ratio of 2 parts glue to 1 part water, and basically we're going to take some toilet paper, we're going to split it apart and glue it on the star. Now, I did make a sample piece several months ago, actually, and it looks something like this. And basically what I wanted was a star with a lot of texture, because I know cardboard is kind of plain, so I wanted to be able to add texture to it. So after doing a little research, I decided to use toilet paper to add that texture. And then later on, we're going to be putting tissue paper over top. And we should get this cool textured kind of look. At least that's the goal anyways. I was able to do it for this one piece, and I'm going to try to do it to this 5-point star that we're making right now. It looks a little bit scary at first, but it does come together quite nicely. And overall, I would say it took me about an hour to do this. And I'm having to stop a lot because I have to set up my cameras in different positions and whatnot. But I think you should be able to do this in about an hour, probably quicker actually, really. Yeah, so anyways, there's really not much to say here. I'm basically just painting on toilet paper, and because it's so thin, it gets really, really wrinkly really easily, and that's how we're going to get our texture. And when I was done with the toilet paper, I let it dry overnight, and by morning, it was nice and dry and solid. It actually added a lot of stiffness to the star. Very cool. All right, and this next part is when we bring out the tissue paper. So basically, this is how we're going to be adding color to the star and a little bit more texture, but not too much. And you can use any color you want. I just got the cheapest tissue paper I could find from the dollar store. And I'm going to go with red today because that's what my sample piece was, and I really liked it. But I was on the fence about using maybe blue or purple. Maybe that'll be one of my next stars then. Anyhow, so the process for applying this tissue paper is exactly the same as the toilet paper, only this time I'm not going to try to wrinkle it because the wrinkles from the toilet paper, or the texture I should say, is already there and I don't need to do that part. So this is actually probably easier than applying the toilet paper, I would say. And yeah, just go ahead and start painting it on. Now, after doing a few of these, I realized that it was actually easier to start at the edges and work my way to the center of the star, as opposed to the other way around, which I was doing with the toilet paper. And this entire process probably took me an hour and a half. So it's not the quickest process, but I really liked the way it looked in the end. So to me, it was worth it. I suppose you could probably skip all this stuff altogether if you wanted to stop after you built the cardboard star and just paint that. You know, that's an option if you just wanted to use toilet paper and then put paint on top of the toilet paper and not use tissue paper. I feel like that could probably work too. In fact, I'm sure you guys could probably think of all sorts of different ways to finish the cardboard star instead of the method that I'm using. But this is just what I'm using today, and I really like the look of it. The tissue paper gives me almost like different shades of reds as opposed to just one uniform red. I feel like it gives it a lot more depth. And once again, I just let this dry overnight. And then it was time for one more step. This is a really quick one, to varnish it. Now I used a water-based polyacrylic varnish. This is where the Mod Podge could come in handy for you guys if you don't have varnish, or if you simply don't want to go out and buy a $30 can of varnish when you don't really need it for any other projects. So Mod Podge is definitely a good option here. All right, so let's take a look at the final star, and wow, I was impressed with this. I am impressed. I've made a lot of wooden stars on my channel, and I'm pretty sure this is the nicest looking star I've made on my entire channel so far. And I made it out of cardboard and toilet paper. I just find that kind of ironic, but also kind of interesting. And most importantly, it's very savvy, which my channel is all about. That's why I named it Savvy Builds. All right. Well, I gotta say, I actually had a lot of fun with this project. And I think I should probably do more of this stuff when I can. Thank you for watching, everyone. Don't forget to check out Patreon for those templates. And I really appreciate the support, and I'll see you next time. Nice.